DNC Vice Chair David Hogg was on the lead last week talking about his plan to raise $20 million to unseat Democrats in safe seats in primaries. Now the DNC chairman, Ken Martin, weighed in, and here's what he had to say.
No DNC officer should ever attempt to influence the outcome of a primary election, whether on behalf of an incumbent or a challenger. And while, certainly, I understand what he's trying to do. As I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC.
From Minnesota, if you can't tell. So Hogg's argument is, just because he's not here to defend himself, there's a lot of dead weight in this party, and we're talking about safe Democratic seats, so whoever wins is going to end up winning anyway, and, we need to rise to meet the moment. That's what he would say.
Great. You don't do that as a member of the DNC. You're an elected person on the DNC. Leave the party and go do that. The DNC is not an idea. That is a Democratic Party. The DNC is an institution with a job to do. People vote in primaries, not the DNC.
Are you sympathetic to his argument at all?
No. Then don't be part of the DNC.
Well, what about the idea that there should be...
Absolutely, there should be primaries. People should be primaried. If that is how our democracy works. But if you want to help the primary challengers, then leave the DNC. That is not your role as the DNC.
Joining us now to discuss, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. Congressman, always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being here. You are one who has actually publicly supported the effort from David Hogg. You wrote on the platform X that you think that Hogg is doing incredible work supporting frontline Democrats while giving new candidates a chance to run in safe seats. And you say Democrats should embrace a new generation of leadership and competition. Why is this such a lonely place for you to be?
Well, look, I think primaries are healthy. Competition is healthy. I won my seat in a Democratic primary. Many of our members of Congress have won in primaries, and we need a new generation of leadership. Now, I'm trying to reach a compromise with the DNC and David Hogg. And what I've said to David is he can have his organization that is having primary challenges, but he himself should not endorse in his personal capacity while he's vice chair. And that seems to me something that can bring everyone together.
Do you think they're actually going to go for it? And I should also say, do you think he has a point about some of your fellow House colleagues who've been in office for decades?
I think he has a point that young people deserve the chance to lead, that many of these folks are in safe Democratic districts, just that's where they're active and growing up. And if we tell them you can't run against a Democratic incumbent, that incumbent could be there 10, 20 years, and they're not going to get the chance to lead. So I think what his point is that we need to make way to give a new generation and new people a chance is absolutely accurate. And there's a huge incumbency advantage. I do think that Ken Martin's point that while you're an officer, you shouldn't tip the scales has validity. And so if he were to just say, I'm not going to endorse in my personal capacity, he can be affiliated with an organization that has primary challenges. There are other DNC officers that are affiliated with organizations that get involved in primaries, but that seems to me a way that everyone can be happy. The DNC gets to follow their rules, and David Hogg's organization can still encourage primary challenges.
All right, fair enough. Of course, the party has, bigger picture challenges as well. Figuring out the right way to take on President Donald Trump has been one of them, especially considering that he was reelected after the wake of everything that happened January 6, 2021 and on. Elissa Slotkin, the senator from Michigan, Politico is reporting about a speech. She's yet to deliver it, but these are some of her prepared remarks, and they're pretty tough. I'll read them for you. I'm not sure if you've seen them yet. They write this, quote, Slotkin, is urging Democrats to effing retake the flag with appeals to voters' sense of patriotism, to adopt the goddamn alpha energy of the Detroit Lions coach, Dan Campbell, and to embrace an airing out of potential 2028 presidential candidates in a broadly contested primary. And she also says, as you see in the headline, don't be weak and woke. Do you agree with her? Is woke weak?
I'm a 49ers fan, so I can't agree with her on the Lions part. But look, I agree with her on the patriotism. I've been pushing, as you might know, a new economic patriotism, which is to say, here's how you actually build new factories, advanced manufacturing that trumps tariff war is destroying the economy. And I think if Alyssa is saying that we need to have patriotism, we need to have an economic message, then she's absolutely right. But look, the Democratic Party has a huge advantage now. The party that's in trouble is Donald Trump. They're destroying the economy. It's been the most irrational economic policy since Herbert Hoover. You have consumer confidence at the second lowest level since 1952. The April stock market is trending to the worst month since 1932. And you have these high tariffs that are destroying wealth. I used to think we had a tough time coming back. Now I'm very confident that we're going to win in 26 and 28. And Trump's really made a mess of it.
Do you think if that happens, and look, I take your point on the economy, and as someone who's been a longtime political reporter and always learned from the James Carville maxim, it's the economy stupid. It does seem like some of these actions, may turn the American people against it. My question for you, though, is, will some of these lessons that Alyssa Slotkin is talking about, do you think Democrats will still learn that piece of it if they go on to win elections just simply because of these economic issues you're talking about?
Well, the economy is the whole thing. I think we have to be the party that says we're going to help bring new jobs and bring new prosperity. We understand the future. We're not going to appoint people who don't know the difference between A1 steak sauce and AI in a digital age. We're not going to have a commerce secretary who says, let's do screws and screwing in America when we need advanced manufacturing and technology in America. We're going to appoint competent people who are going to help you build wealth and have good jobs. And I think that's going to not only win, it's going to win decisively. And we have a good vision on healthcare. And that, to me, is why we lost the last election, that Donald Trump was seen as a business guy who understood the economy, who was going to be good for building wealth in this country. That's why people in Silicon Valley voted for him. And he's lost all of that.
Where do you see a potential deal with China right now? I know this is something that you have thought a lot about. There are other concerns that, of course, many business leaders raise. Intellectual property, for example. Is there anything in what Trump is doing that you see as potentially being good for the United States in terms of taking on China?
Yes, I'm on the China Select Committee, and sure, have strategic tariffs on dumping into the United States of Chinese products. But you can't have a blanket tariff, because if I was just talking to a manufacturer in my district back in Silicon Valley, and they were saying 70% of their parts come from China. So it has to be a gradual approach where you combine it with investing in manufacturing and the supply chain here. And that's where I think that the policy has been off, is that there hasn't been any strategic approach. Have the tariffs on steel and aluminum and in key areas, but you can't have blanket tariffs. But my hope is that it will force the Chinese to stop dumping and stop some of the unfair trade. There's no doubt, and there Trump is right, that China was not playing by the rules.